This
is hereby
conference
given
will
that
now be recorded.
There you go.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that the Lago Vista City Council will hold a regular meeting on Thursday, April 15th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. as prescribed by VTCA Government Code Section 551.041 to consider the following agenda items. Call the meeting to order. The call of the roll. I see that everybody is present. Do we do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah.
Don't we do that during the normal, before the start of the main meeting?
Okay. All right. And we now convene into executive session.
At 5:34?
At 5:34.
And you have to read off, yeah, and Archie, you have to read off the items that we're going to discuss in executive session before we go in.
Okay. We'll convene into regular executive session pursuant to section 551.051 advice of counsel, 551.072 real property, 551.074 personnel, section 551.087 economic development, Texas government code, and section 1.05 Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct regarding A, consultation with legal counsel and possible action concerning any regular meeting agenda item requiring confidential attorney-client advice necessitated by the deliberation or discussion of said items as needed. B, discussion regarding purchase of property on Loman Ford Road. C, consultation with legal counsel regarding approval process to purchase, sell city property. So we convene into executive session at 5:35.
Okay.
See you on the other side.
Great.
1, 2, 3, 4. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Paul. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, we're ready. All right, we reconvene from executive session into open session to act as deemed appropriate in city council's discretion at 6:26, and we will recess until 6:30.
I like a winner.
1, 2. Where's the other 4?
I think I see them. They just didn't have the pictures on.
Yeah, just turn on. I was camera off, but I'm here.
Okay, so Dick and Shalane. Is Shalane there?
Yes, she.
Yep, she's there.
All right, we will get started then. All right. And we reconvene from recess into open session to act as deemed appropriate in City Council's discretion regarding A, any necessary action regarding any regular meeting agenda item.
No action.
B, any necessary action regarding purchase of property on Lomanford Road.
No action.
No action.
And C, any necessary action regarding approval process to purchase, sell city property.
No action.
All right. Aaron, if you don't mind, would you give our citizens a brief overview of what was discussed in executive session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So for item A, there was some legal advice provided with regard to and discussion regarding the consent agenda and whether or not those items fall within the requirements for being routine and thus appropriate for that particular section. There was a discussion regarding the current asking price for the property on Lomanford and the feasibility of that property. And then for item C, there was a discussion and direction given regarding the strategy or process for selling lots and existing property that is the city has deemed surplus property.
All right, thank you. Any comments from citizens regarding executive session? All right. All right, we shall move into our regular meeting at this time. Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will join me, please, the U.S. and the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the
republic
for which it stands,
one nation
one
under
nation
God,
under God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag.
Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
One
one
state.
state
one state, under
one
God, one and indivisible.
Right, thank you. And we move into citizen comments. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, council is prohibited from acting or discussing other than factual responses to specific questions, any items not on the agenda. I have, let me check my inbox, but I believe I only have one person that is signed up. Yes, I only have one who has submitted a request to speak, and that is Mr. Don Bartholow. Mr. Bartholow, you have the floor.
Hello, so I'm Don Bartholow. I've given my little spiel here a few times now, a couple times now. My first one, we talked about fraud that was reported to me that I shared with the authorities. The authorities move very slowly. So my second one was about accountability, and accountability is what we addressed, that we have several people, a majority actually, sitting on our city council still, that chose the wrong course and they have not held themselves accountable. So now we come to responsibility. So we, the people, have to come together and change the course of our local government. So the group includes Ed Tidwell, Dick Weatherly, David Williams, Arch Davila, Frank Robinson, Tim Collins, and Aaron Silvera. These are the remaining characters that all chose to cover the criminal fraudulent spending of our city engineer by having the city manager do the investigation. So most people weren't paying attention then, and there are not a lot of people paying attention now, but this word has to get out there. They had the city manager investigate himself. They decided that there were no problems. I begged for an outside investigation. It did not happen. So since they're not holding themselves accountable, it's now the responsibility of citizens to hold them accountable. If we allow them to continue to run our city, bankruptcy is in our future, and it will somewhat be our own fault. We have many problems in front of this city, and we need responsible leadership to address the problems that we're confronting. Citizens need to step up and demand resignations from the people who have compromised themselves and tried to cover their tracks rather than addressing the problem. And it wasn't that big of a problem when it started, but now it's turned into a much larger problem because now we know we have a local government that's not holding themselves accountable. With in the past, we were on a course. I'm going to try to make this real quick. They tried to move City Hall into a shopping center. They were all for it. Everyone spoke about it, but we had 50 people show up to a meeting. 20 people spoke, and they spoke well. And the whole council turned around and decided not to move City Hall into a rented shopping center, which was a horrible move, and we prevented it. So what I'm doing now is trying to get more people involved and bring more attention to the problems that we have within our city so we can get responsible people as our local government, so we don't waste taxpayer money any further. And that's all I have today.
All right, thank you. All right, that is the only person that I had signed up. Is there anybody else who would like to make a comment at this time? All right, seeing none, we will go into items of community interest. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415, the City Council may report on any of the following items: expressions of thanks, gratitude, and condolences, information regarding holiday schedules, recognition of individuals, i.e. proclamations, reminders regarding City Council events, reminders regarding community events, and health and safety announcements. Let's see here, get to my notes. So first of all, I want to start with an expression of thanks. As some of y'all know, some of you may not know, yesterday we had a special called meeting with SGR, who is the firm that we have contracted with to do our permanent city manager search. Council met with them for, I don't know, 2.5 hours or so yesterday, going through applicants, and we have narrowed it down to our semi-finalists at this time. Following that discussion with SGR, council made a decision to terminate the interim contract with Mr. Roger Chan. That was effective immediately. He was given his 30 days written notice. So that was a decision made by council yesterday. I have spent yesterday afternoon and today speaking with Mr. Chan, and I thanked him for the work that he did for us during the time that he was here. And you know, his personality and his presence was well received. And I just want to say one more time that, you know, we all would like to express our gratitude and thanks to Mr. Chan for serving as our interim city manager during that time period. And we're moving forward. We have 6 weeks to finish up with our semifinalist. It'll be written questionnaires, some video presentations, And then we will narrow it down to our finalist, and we will meet the first week of June to select, hopefully select our next city manager. So that's an update on what transpired yesterday. I have this past week met for the first time with my citizen volunteer committee to work on our emergency response plan. We have broken down into teams and allowed everybody to choose what areas of interest they would like to focus on. Now we're starting the process of reaching out to staff members to coordinate with these volunteers and to start working on the 22 annexes that go along with the Travis County Basic Plan. We're reaching out also to county and to other cities that may have some examples that we can use. Those are not public information because of potential terrorist attacks and things that you do not want compromised as far as your city goes. So getting those to us to kind of review is taking a little bit of time, but once we get those, you know, we'll go head first into this. We're expecting, I don't know, 6-9 months or so to create this emergency response plan with the 22 annexes that supplement the basic plan. So that's where we're at on the emergency response plan. I have here some announcements from our public information officer. Storm-related residential household debris drop-off event. Now, household debris is not brush. This is people that had to make repairs and stuff to their homes due to broken pipes and things like that. We have dumpster, 59 Way Municipal Complex Way, which is basically behind the police station. Let's see, that's going to be Tuesday through Thursday, April 20th through the 22nd, and Saturday, April 24th. It is a self-service drop-off, and it's open to all city of Lago Vista residents that have, you know, city utility account.
That's okay. They'll think it's you.
Meredith, your speaker is on. Your microphone is on.
Yes.
This is, hang on just a second. Bam. Okay. Excuse me. So open to all cities, all City of Lago residents with city utility accounts, self-service drop-off, no construction material, no building contractor waste. It'll be done using the waivers and permits, just kind of like the brush drop-off was, just so we can identify, you know, make sure that we don't have contractors coming through, things like that. And that's, again, April 20th through the 22nd and Saturday, April 24th. So basically next week is when that goes. The 27th of April, Emancipet, Central Texas Mobile Veterinary Clinic, out here in the City Hall parking lot. You can get spay and neuter services or healthy pet services, which are shots and medications. Please go to emancipet.org to sign up if you need any type of surgical services, spay and neuter services. The shots and medicines, you can just show up. You do not need an appointment for that. April 30th, deadline, application for city boards and commissions that are being accepted. We have opened up the application process for all of our committees for a second go around. We've had some recent resignations, and we're kind of short on applications for interested people. So we've reopened up the application process. If you are somebody who has completed an application back in October, November timeframe, your application is still good, but you just might want to check just to make sure that we have you on the list. But if you did not apply and you're interested, you can apply now. We also have deadline of April 30th, the Youth Advisory Committee. This is my committee of 7 youth members and 1 adult member. The application deadline for that is also on April 30th. So if there's any high school students that are in their sophomore and junior year currently, they're going to be juniors and seniors next year. I encourage you to apply for my Youth Advisory Committee. And if you're an adult interested in assisting with this committee, please apply as well. One last announcement from PIO, the Lago Vista adult flag football players and referees are now being recruited. Wow, adult. Okay, flag football games will take place at Lago Vista Sunset Park on Saturday mornings and afternoons. Team fees $325. Referees are wanted. There's a contact, Ricky Quinones, and this information can be found on the city website for all of you athletic types who want to play flag football. Hopefully it's less painful than tackle football. And that is all that I have on my list. Yes, Councilor Williams.
I would just like to thank the KLVB, the Boy Scouts, and the Lions Group for their efforts in helping with the cleanup around town. It's greatly appreciated.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Councilor Marion.
Thank you, Mayor. If it's all right, I have like 6 things all related to Lago Vista ISD. First one is congratulations to all of these groups in advance. Lago Vista High School boys blue golf team, they placed first at the Fredericksburg Golf Tournament. Lago Vista High School UIL academics are district champions. Both the blue and gold Lady Vikings golf teams qualified for the Region 4 golf tournament. Then we have Braden Smith, who is the individual district champ with a 2-day total of 147. And he'll advance to the regional golf tournament with, of course, the hopes then of advancing to the state tournament in May. And then Lago Vista ISD band earned straight 1s and sweepstakes for the year. There is no higher rating, so that's, you know, absolutely fantastic for the band. And Lago Vista ISD tennis, the varsity girls are district champs, and then the varsity boys, JV girls, and JV boys all earned 3rd place overall. So congratulations to all those students, parents, coaches, and sponsors.
Awesome, thank you. Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 expressions of thanks. I want to follow up Mr. Williams' expression about the Lions and Boy Scouts with some additional detail. Over the last 2 weekends, the Boy Scouts took 25 loads of brush from area residents to over to Sunset Park. So kudos to all the adult leaders and scouts that helped with that. The Lions are going to donate $2,500 to their fund to help them finance their operations. So thanks so much. And we also continue to work with St. Vincent de Paul to help folks in need in the community. We've gone through most of the money that we've raised, but there is still some left, and we're still helping folks out. And then the other one that I want to express thanks for was we've got the Lions Point Venture and Lago Lions blood drive happening this Saturday. And we've filled all the appointments, so nobody else needs to sign up. But I just want to thank the North Shore folks for stepping up and taking all those appointments and giving blood this weekend.
I have my blood appointment. I did think of one other thing. This is not quite official yet. This is just preliminary reports that I'm getting from the General Land Office. But with the ARP, was it America Recovery Plan? Oh, I just know it by the initials, ARP, that the current administration has passed. Lago is looking to potentially receive as much as $1.65 million. If you remember the last package, we received 291,000. So we're looking at an additional, I don't know, 5 times roughly of what we received last time. So we will be, once the official word comes out and the restrictions and guidance and everything that goes along with the ARP, we will be looking at how to put this money to use for the citizens of Lago Vista. Hopefully we can have some sort of economic plan, assistance plan like we did last time for our businesses. But we'll see what all the guidance is, but just, it's not official just yet, but that's what we're hoping for right now. Anybody else? Yes. Hold on, let me just check with council. I don't see any other hands, so yes, Mr. Paul Roberts.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. This weekend at St. Mary's Catholic Church, Knights of Columbus, we are doing a food drive after masses at 9 a.m. and noon. It's, believe it or not, it's our first food drive for the Knights of Columbus in Lago Vista. So please, even if you don't go to our church, stop by about 10 a.m. or 1 p.m. after mass, Saturday, Sunday, donate. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else in the audience have anything to add for community interest? All right, we shall move on. Action items. Discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding resolution number 21-1883, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, appointing an individual to fill an unexpired vacant term as a member of the Library Advisory Board. And the lead on this is Mr. Councilor Kevin Sullivan, so I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So we did have Andrea Fanuff, who resigned from the board. She got busier with work than she had anticipated, and between that and homeschooling her children and so forth, she just didn't have time for it. We're sorry to see her go and thank her so much for her service. My first thought was to go back to someone that we'd also chatted with back in the fall, and that was Deanna Roberts. So Sharon Mackett, our chairperson, chatted with her. It turns out that Ms. Roberts had joined, I believe it's Parks and Recs, and didn't feel like she had enough time to go and do the library as well. So we went to the next person in line, which was Elaine Hughes, and she's very interested in being on the board. So I would like to nominate Elaine Hughes to be a member of the Library Advisory Board.
All right, questions, comments from council? All right, anybody in the audience have any comments? All right, seeing none. Kevin, if you'd make an official motion at this time.
Yes, Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve resolution number 21-1883, making Elaine Hughes a member of the Library Advisory Board.
Second.
Second.
All right, have the motion, and I believe the second I saw firsthand was David Williams on the second there. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion, the resolution passes unanimous. Welcome, Elaine Hughes. All right, and we go to number 4. Discussion, consideration, and possible action on selecting a company for the household hazardous waste collection services and authorize the city attorney to negotiate contract terms and bring back contract to council for approval. As you know, we have discussed this many times over the last 6 or 8 months. Council had given direction to move forward with bids several months ago. The city recently had its bid opening for the household hazardous waste collection services. The bid opening was on March 2nd at 11 a.m. Proposed items up for bid consisted of providing services to the city for the household hazardous waste. These bids were issued as part of a bid proposal request with a specified scope of work. Household hazardous waste solutions came in at 89 cents per home per month. They offered the best value to the city. This would be a long-term contract to the contract city currently has with similar to the contract city currently has with Waste Connections. There was a second bid received from Clean Earth. They came in at $1.50 per household per month. Similarly to general household trash services, the city would charge the customers on the utility bill as a separate line item. Council would need to add this fee via an ordinance. So this would be like your trash. It's a pass along fee. So the company is actually charging the customers. It's just the city is doing this for the company via the utility bill. City staff had determined that this company offers many similar services around the Texas area. Staff has checked their references and evaluated their proposal. Council may elect to take staff's recommendation, may reject all bids, or proceed with further evaluation. Staff recommends that the contract for household hazardous waste collection services and authorize the city attorney to negotiate the contract term and bring it back to council for approval. The bid did not include electronics. However, there is an option to add electronics. The price would change from 89 cents to $1.05 if we added electronics to this. Staff is looking for any service changes requested so those can be part of the contract. Eric, is there anything that you would like to or need to add to this?
No, Mayor, so the main point for this is to select the vendor or select the service provider. Council select the service provider. And if council wants to talk to, I believe the household service person is here, present at the meeting. If you guys have any questions for them, they can probably answer. And also we're looking if there's any direction that council wants to give to staff that wants to contract to say something or not say something. So this would be that opportune time. We didn't want to bring a contract to council and find out that, well, there's certain things that council may not like in contract. So we're hoping to try to catch that at a time. And one of the main reasons is first select the service provider because we want to probably make that decision within 45 days, and it's getting close to 45 days.
All right, thank you. So yes, we have Mr. Tim Oliver with Household Hazardous Waste Solutions in attendance. Mr. Oliver, is there anything that you would like to say to City Council?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Tim Oliver here, HHW Solutions. We look forward to the opportunity, and really I'm just here to answer any questions that you may have related to the service or the offering that we have to you, the proposal, and look forward to negotiating a contract if you approve.
All right, thank you. So Council, questions, comments? Yes, Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the first comment I'd make is I'd be all in favor if we have the option at $1.05 to do the electronics. I would be in favor of that. Uh, Two questions. One is a single day going to be enough? We've got recycle, for example, that happens every other week, and trash pickup that happens every day of the week to get all around the city. And I realize that not everyone's going to have something every month, but that's just a question in my mind. Is that enough? And then the second question is, it seemed to list an exact number of accounts in the contract that I saw, and I didn't see any in adjuster because obviously we're adding houses at a very fast clip. Is there a clause in there that says, as we add a new accounts, they would just be added to the total?
So I can speak to the quantity of pickups required. Regarding the contract, I would leave that answer to your city attorney. I would say in a contract that we would be agreeable to, the number of homes would be tied to the service that we provide, and so as your number of homes increase, then our fee would increase exactly with that number of homes. Typically, just like your trash accounts, someone from your utility billing would send us an email at the end of the month or beginning of the following month that says our home count, our house count, or single family dwelling count is 3,500 and whatever. And each month it either creeps up or down based off of the growth in the city. Regarding the first question, is it enough? It should be based off of your home count, because participation each month it's not the near participation level as what you would see in recycling. Typically, most homes are going to use the service, 3 or 4 times a year. But we spread that cost instead of having peaks and valleys. We spread that cost out over the year with the flat rate. So I think that once a month would be enough. Although our commitment is to collect as often as necessary. So if that's twice a month, we don't have an issue doing that. We'll flex to meet the need. And so even on a interim basis, what we'll see in the beginning of a contract is we'll see a huge spike in the demand because it's a service that hasn't been offered before or hasn't been utilized well before. And so we see a huge spike, and so we adapt it with either multiple collection routes or multiple days. And the way we address that is in our sign up method. Most folks sign up online, and when you sign up, you enter your address, what items you have, and right there, there's a date. Your collection will be on this date. Please have your items out for pickup on your front porch. Well, when we reach that maximum number of pickups, we automatically roll the date to the following day of the week. So if it's a Wednesday, we'll go Thursday. And so those that sign up will know which day they're going to be on as they're scheduling. I hope that answered your questions.
It did. Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
Councilor Williams.
So the day that people sign up for pickup, they put the hazardous waste up by like where they put the trash cans, or they just leave it outside their house? How's that work?
Sure. So a couple of points there. So people have all month long to sign up, and during that sign up period, we'll have the date. The next collection is going to be, let's say it's May 15th, right? So we'll change the date online starting today, and so all month long they'll schedule for the collection day of May 15th. We're just using a general date here. As far as the placement goes, we ask that the items, because of the nature of them, that we don't want there's any confusion with the trash, or also we don't want kids walking by and getting pool chemicals. So we ask that you put them up by your garage, on your front porch. If you don't have a garage, the side of the house, there's a spot on our sign up and also our call takers that if you have any special placement instructions, on the side of the house, on the porch, at the garage, but separate from your garbage and recycling collection. Most folks just use a cardboard box and put the items out there. Others just leave them individually placed, but it is up at towards the house.
And one more question. What about someone that doesn't like getting on a computer and signing up? Is there a way they can contact you?
Absolutely. We assign a specific number for Lago Vista with a local area code, and it rings to our office, and we take that call information just as if they were doing it online. In fact, we actually take the call and enter it online for them so that all of our information is combined when we run our reporting for the pickups.
Thank you.
So Tim, my question would be, how do you handle multi-family units, like apartments or condos?
So condos and apartments are actually a couple of different things. So we have the capability, state law allows us to collect from multifamily residents or dwellings. What it does not allow us to collect from is commercial entities, because they would be outside of the realm of what HHW is, household hazardous waste. From a billing standpoint, as long as we understand the number of units that we're collecting from, when those customers enter their address, or we take the call and enter their unit number, we collect those directly from their door. So we have the capability to collect from condos and apartments. It just all ties back to the number of dwelling units that get sent to us each month for billing.
All right. And I know they're not available now, but is there a potential, is there a possibility that at some point there would be bins available to be issued to customers like we have our trash cans? Just so that they're not always in cardboard boxes or bags.
Sure. So a couple of points of consideration there. Anything's possible. There's obviously a capital investment cost to providing, the little 18-gallon bins is probably what comes to mind. That's what recycling typically used to be collected in. It may still be in your case, I'm not sure. So there's a there's a capital consideration, and with any capital investment, that cost is passed on, which would be paid right through your rate. So when you take into consideration, I'm not saying no, we would be happy to do it. We would just have to pass that capital investment along through to your ratepayer. What I would say though is, with the participation being 4 or 5 times a year, most folks don't have an issue finding a cardboard box a couple times a year to place stuff out. And then furthermore, there are plenty that don't use a box at all. They just set their individual items at their garage on Saturday, and when they know we're coming, and we collect it individually. Our route drivers actually pull a little wagon, one of those canvas fold-up wagons that you get at Academy, and they put all their items in there and bring them back to the truck.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else on council? Yes, Councilor Marion.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a couple of things. The first one is, so the contract, is it possible to think about perhaps doing like a 1-year term or something to see how well it goes in the first year, and then look at the option of extending for a certain number of years after that? And then the only other thing that I would say is that because you're right, this conversation started quite some time ago, before the elections even. And when I was campaigning, council talked about this, and I put it out to citizens to get their feedback on what they thought of this proposal, and just wanted to state that for the most part, most of the feedback on this was positive. So just wanted to share that.
So thank you for that. To answer your first question, it sort of ties back to the question the mayor had about the container. We'll entertain any term, and that's what your action item allows us for us to negotiate that with your city attorney. As with any change in terms, so we'll be adding vehicles for this collection, and there's a capital consideration of that. I would say the longer the term, it allows us to spread that capital allocation over a greater period of time, thus lowering the monthly cost to your residents. So the shorter the term, then the more capital that we would have to spread out over a shorter period of time. Long story short, shorter term means a slightly higher cost, and that's something that we could definitely take a look at and work through with your city attorney if that's what you're interested in. I hope that answers your question.
Councilor Davila.
Mr. Oliver, I have a very basic question. When would you expect to be able to begin the service?
So once a contract is approved and signed, we are required to provide a 45-day notification to the TCEQ, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, letting them know that, that we are beginning a program. Once that contract is signed, we submit that notification on your behalf same day and could begin collecting 45 days later.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councilor Prince.
So I spent some time getting feedback from citizens on this, and I was a little surprised, really, in the feedback that I got. I'm interested if any of this would tie back to some of what Councilor Marion had seen in her Facebook survey some time back. But for the most part, everybody said, yeah, you know, I might use it and I might not use it that much, but it's not that much. I'm willing to, you know, help do my part, kind of thing. So I got a lot of that. But far more than that, and this is not so much for Mr. Oliver, but for the council, far more than that, people said, well, what about tires? What about our dumping problem with refrigerators and mattresses? You know, is this going to help on that? And the answer is no, of course. This is a completely different thing we're talking about. But you know, in general, it was sort of we would rather have a more robust, bigger solution that the city provides, even if it costs us more money, you know. And there were several people who said, hey, you know, if I have to pay a fee to drop off a mattress, that's great. It's far better than driving out to Williamson County. And I say all that to say that if we really provide what the citizens are asking for, or what I'm hearing them ask for, what's really a pretty small piece of that would kind of come as a side effect. And so I really got a pretty strong feedback that, you know, this is not a terrible thing, and I'd be willing to do my part, but it really, it doesn't seem to solve the problem that we have around waste. And clearly I got a lot of comments about waste, not just hazardous waste. And then there were several people who said, you know, the little tiny bit of hazardous waste that I have to deal with, I've always been able to deal with it in the city's annual cleanup effort, right? So bring it over to the place off of Alfalfa or Ming or whatever. So I was pretty surprised that I got a lot more, you know, non-enthusiastic to this is not even worth bothering with kind of feedback, which surprised me. So, you know, a few other council members have gotten pretty strong feedback in favor of it. I'd love to hear it, but I sure didn't. I was not overwhelmed with the citizen support when I spent my time getting feedback. And it surprised me because, you know, I thought it would be a more positive reaction, and certainly, you know, I was in favor of it, you know, in general going into that.
So if I may, Mayor, just I put a few notes out there and then turn it over to the other council members. You mentioned a couple of things that we do as a company offer, and we have included in some of our other contracts. I would say in this request for bid or proposal, it wasn't mentioned. Tires are one of our more popular items that we offer collection on. There's several cities. City of Rockwall comes to mind, a pretty large city of ours that we collect tires in, and that's a service that we do offer. I can't say that large appliances is something that we've considered because they take up so much room. but it would definitely be something that we could consider at least. I know tires are on our radar and in our repertoire for sure, but other things could be considered as well. And we'd love to kind of help address your problem. Mattresses obviously is not in the HHW realm, but I would hope there's some sort of bulk collection in your waste program. Maybe not. I'm not terribly familiar with it, but tires definitely something that we could take a look at and help Lago Vista with.
And if I may, just since he was responding to me, thank you for that. Have you, Mr. Oliver, has your company considered models where it's a pay for use rather than every citizen pays a flat amount?
Yeah, we absolutely have. And what you see there are large spikes. For instance, I can speak to Dallas County where they do allow for one-off drops, and you're talking about each individual drop off for a limited amount of items is in excess of $100 per drop off. And so where we've been successful is because we're able to spread that cost out over a term and spread it out and give the opportunity to everyone. So yes, it's definitely a model that we actually do annual events where the city, like what you mentioned earlier, we do those as well, and a pay per drop off, but it's far more financially. People can seem to stomach the monthly 89 cents better than the $125 per drop off.
All right. If I may, when we have our annual trash off, the household hazardous waste are items that are not accepted. So all your antifreeze and oils and all these things that you would be collecting as household hazardous waste, they cannot drop off at our annual trash off. Neither can appliances unless they have had somebody professionally remove everything and it's been tagged as having all the Freon and everything removed. So I don't know if I can share my screen here. Let me see if I can do that. So we had a collection at one point, and this here, can everybody see that photo?
Yes.
Yeah, this was a one weekend event. So where, people say they don't have very much. Maybe individually they don't, but God, citywide, we collected so much household hazardous waste outside of just tires and electronics and stuff. But that's just an example of what was shown. Let me see now to figure out how to get back to my screen. There we go. So, Councilor Marion.
Thank you, Mayor. I absolutely agree about the greater need probably being for the larger items, like Councilor Prince was just saying. But for some reason, I thought that the city already was working on a plan for that to be addressed, maybe with the new Green Center or something along those lines. I thought some of that was being taken care of through that. If not, then I would agree with Councilor Prince that we certainly need to be investigating options for that. Big roll-off dumpsters once a month or something where we could take care of those large items, because that's typically what tends to get dumped out on vacant lots that folks who own those lots later have to end up figuring out how to dispose of.
So yeah, I mean, that is something that we are hoping for in the future. But I don't know when that's going to happen. But yes, that the property that we're looking at would include a mass drop-off site. And so I was going to ask the question from Mr. Oliver at some point in the future, if we do have our collection site established. Do y'all have the capabilities to provide those services, you know, like as a station, you know, doing mass pickups from the city instead of going around to individual households? Would y'all have that capability in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. We operate exactly like what you're discussing for a county, Northeast Texas, Kaufman County. We actually have community drop-off locations where large items are collected, recyclables are able to be dropped off, and then tires and HHW is dropped off there as well. So that is something that we currently operate and manage for Kaufman County, and could consider doing the same thing if and when you get a site set up for that. I'll tell you that the trash is easy. The HHW is a little bit harder because of you have to have the training and the licensing to handle that waste and know how to properly store and manage it. And then also you have to have storage locations. I said that poorly, but the flammable materials have to be stored in a flame resistant cabinet container, large container away from other materials. So it's more than just having a drop off location. There's management involved in it also, but it's definitely able to be done.
Okay. Well, we're getting off of the agenda item, but thanks for that information. Councilor Sullivan?
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to follow up. We've had Waste Connections come and speak to us in the past, and they've indicated that they will pick up large items if you set them out and they have room on their truck. And I'll give an example. I actually was talking with a friend today. She had a mattress. She stuck it out yesterday for collection, and it was taken. I think the problem that we have with a mattress and other bulky items being dumped are, number one, people don't know that Waste Connections will take it if they live here in Lago and they go dump it instead. But I also think we have a very big problem with people coming from outside of our community because they know we have so many vacant lots and they dump stuff out here, and you're not going to solve that having a big collection because they're not from our community. But Waste Connections will take and did just yesterday take a mattress from our local resident.
Councilor Davila?
Mayor, I just wanted to add a little context to what's being discussed here. We're talking about $10.68 per household per year. I think for what we would be getting, that's a great value. I think that should be recognized. Thank you.
Yeah, and you never know. I know going back when we had the flood and going to homes doing the muck out, it was amazing. Some of these houses, their garages were just full of stuff. So you never really know until you bring in a program like this how much stuff people have collected over the years. So I agree. I think it would be a great value for our citizens. Anybody else on council? All right. Anybody in the audience with any comments? Yes, Ms. DeVoe.
Hello, Mayor and City Council members. I actually think this is a great program, and like Arch said, for $10 and some odd cents a month, I've told you this is what I did for a living. This would cost you, for me to take it down south, at least $120 for just a little trunk load of crap. Oops, sorry. But and for $10, I mean, I live in a condo. I have my paint from 7 years ago when I moved in here because I've got nowhere to throw it. And even though I do this for a living, I'm not going down there by myself because I'm not wasting my money, So it's going to sit there until I find a place to put it. And for $10 a month, I would take it once a year for $10 a month. For $10 a month, I would do it once a year even. I mean, I think that's a great value, and spreading it out amongst everybody. And even though you don't think you're going to use it, I want you all to go to your garages or your closets when you get off this meeting and look at all the stuff that you should be throwing away. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Roberts, Paul Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say that if Darcy would like to come through my garage and identify all those items, I'll be happy to throw my support behind this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience? All right, if that is everything, I will bring it back to, yes, Councilor Prince.
All right, I was finding my unmute button. I should add that the other pretty universal feedback that I got was, if we're going to do this, let's also do the electronics and not stop at the 89 cents, but do the dollar and the nickel. And that was, you know, there was nobody who was absolutely, that I talked to, that was absolutely opposed to doing this. Everybody wanted something bigger and better. And so the baby step in bigger and better, I guess, for them was, you know, go to the dollar and nickel and include electronics.
All right, thank you. All right. So at this time, I will bring it back to council for y'all to make a motion and make sure you give direction to the attorney in your motion so that she knows what she is working on when she goes to negotiate with HHW Solutions, if we decide to accept their bid. Yes, Councilor Sullivan.
Mayor, I would make a motion that we authorize the city attorney to negotiate with HHW Solutions to have a contract for the household hazardous waste disposal, and that we include the electronics option.
Second.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Kevin Sullivan and a second from Councilor Williams. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the bid is accepted and Aaron will negotiate the contract and bring it back to council for approval. Unanimous.
Thank you all very much. We look forward to it.
Mr. Oliver, thank you.
Mr. Oliver, thank you for attending.
Y'all have a great night.
All right, we go to number 5. Discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding acceptance of bid for maintenance equipment for the Lago Vista Golf Course and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the contract. The golf course solicited bids for the golf course solicited bids for a vendor for new maintenance equipment for the golf course, including a dump trailer, tractor bucket attachment, utility vehicle, 2 specialty mowers, and a fertilizer spreader. The request for bids was published in the Hill Country News on March 18th and 25th. Deadline for submission was April 5th at 10 a.m. The bid opening meeting at 11 on the same day. The city received 1 bid from Austin Turf and Tractor located in Marble Falls. The proposal included a total price of $65,597.58 that will be paid as quarterly payments of $3,046.92 over a 72-month lease purchase agreement. The city will own all equipment at the end of the lease purchase term. The lead on this is Mr. Chris Godwin. Mr. Godwin, do you have anything to add to that?
Okay, there we go. No, I think that pretty much sums it up, Mr. Mayor. Just here to answer any questions y'all may have for me.
All right, well, I got questions. So first of all, funding source. Funding is required, and it says it's budgeted. Funding source, the FY21 golf course budget. So first of all, under what line is that budgeted? I mean, I was kind of looking through the budget. Let's see, maintenance. Let's see, where was my line? Rental and lease, 81,150. Is that the line?
That
And
is the line item, yes, sir. And what's in the budget is the projected cost for this year.
so that 81,150, is that for just this lease or does that include other leases? Because I'm
That would
trying to
be
figure out
for,
if we've got 81,150 budgeted. Why do we need a 72-month lease?
so the 81 is roughly what your payments would be amongst the active leases that we have, including this one if it gets approved.
Okay.
And the reason we went with the 72-month lease purchase was just to make budget dollars work.
Okay, so this would be something that would have to be budgeted out over the. All right. All right, let's see. On your impact if denied, it says golf course would have to use other less efficient resources to attempt to perform the work. City does not have other existing equipment to substitute for the granular fertilizer spreader or the two rough mowers that are part of this bid. Staff may have to seek other options for. So what are we using now? How are we doing this work?
We're not. Fortunately, it hasn't been an issue yet, just because we haven't really needed the rough mower yet, just because we're not in full active growing season. But it's coming upon us very, very quickly. The fertilizer spreader was actually added into this equipment package after the winter storm hit, and the amount of turf that the golf course lost during that storm. The fertilizer spreader is now a necessity in order to help bring the golf course back.
Okay. But so with that addition, everything is still within this this line item budget, rental and lease.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anybody else on council have questions? Yes, Councilor Marion.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a few questions. First is a comment. I'm just noting that, again, we seem to have only gotten one bid. And I know that's been something that we have mentioned as a problem on multiple occasions. So still expressing that hopefully we can figure out a way to get more than one bid for this type of stuff, for all bids that we, RFPs that we put out. Excuse me, then, if I'm understanding correctly, this equipment isn't replacing anything because we currently don't have any of this equipment, right? We don't, right now you don't have rough mowers, so you're not mowing the roughs or anything like that. So that's
So we do. So technically speaking, we do have it. They're just not operational, and they have been surplused.
Okay, so they've already been surplused.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then will leasing the equipment end up like saving money? I understand it saves from having to pay like one bulk amount at the get-go, but is it really going to kind of save money down the line somewhere? The lease is 72 months, right? So 6 years we're going to be paying on the equipment. At
Yes,
the
ma'am.
end of that 6 years, or somewhere in the midst of that 6 years, we'll own the equipment, but will it still be any good? Like, what's the typical life expectancy for this equipment? Is it 10 years? Is it 4 years? And really before the lease runs out, we're going to have to come back and release new equipment. Do you have some idea what that looks like?
So your kind of general rule of thumb on equipment like this is roughly 10 years is kind of your kind of general rule of thumb.
Okay. So hopefully then by the time we finish paying it off, we'll still have a few years before, looks like you might have to release or purchase, whatever the decision is then. And then and maybe this isn't possible, but is it possible that if this equipment is leased here, is it only good for golf course use? Or is it something that could be used somehow to fulfill multiple purposes if we need for it to save funds somewhere down the road somewhere else? Or can we not do that if it's bought with golf course money?
So the equipment that we're getting, technically speaking, could be used anywhere. So speaking of the rough mowers, it's actually what we call it's a variable deck mower, which means it has variable heights. So if Chris Mobley at Parks and Rec needed to borrow a mower to mow the ball fields at the Sunset Park, that mower has that capability. So it's not specific to golf course. And the reason we went with that mower is because the golf course specific rough mower was about 70 grand. And getting these two mowers accomplished the same objective at about less than half or more than half the cost. But they do have that capability to be used elsewhere. And I guess technically same thing with the fertilizer spreader. If, Chris needed to put some fertilizer out at Sunset Park, it can do that as well.
The dump trailer is just a dump trailer.
I'm sorry?
I said, and the dump trailer is just a basic dump trailer.
And the dump trailer is just a basic dump trailer, yes, sir. So that can be used elsewhere also. The only thing that really couldn't be used is the bucket on the tractor, which is a golf course tractor. That's the only piece that couldn't be taken somewhere else should it be needed.
Okay, good. I love the dual functionality. And side note, I'm in the wrong business apparently. And then the last one is just a kind of a general comment, although I don't know if this is relevant anymore, given your $70,000 comment just now. I was thinking $7,000 for a fertilizer. Wow, this must be some super, exceptional fertilizer spreader. But anyway, that's all my questions. Thank you very much, Chris.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Chris,
Sure.
what can you give me a brief idea of what else we are leasing as far as golf course equipment? I mean, do we lease everything, all of our carts, everything?
So all of the golf course, I shouldn't say all of it, with the exception of a few mowers, we lease pretty much, or I'm sorry, we don't lease it. It's all under a lease purchase. The golf carts for patrons is just a regular lease, but anything golf course maintenance wise is lease purchase. And in terms of items, there's aerifiers, core harvesters, utility vehicles, or a different type of utility vehicle, and things of that nature.
Okay, because kind of along those lifespan questions that we're asking, is a lease purchase better than just a lease that has, we can turn them back in 6 years? And is a lease purchase better than just an ongoing lease if we can't afford to buy them outright?
In my personal opinion, yes. Even though the lease purchase is going to be a little bit more costly quarterly, the fact that we're going to own it at the end of the term, in my personal opinion, is well worth the extra few dollars that we're going to spend, just so that way, you're going to have that 4 years, or I should say roughly 4 years, where you're going to be saving that payment. Whereas if you just outright lease it, you're going to have that payment continuously.
Okay. Councilor Sullivan.
Thanks, Mayor. Sorry, it took me a minute. Chris, I was just curious, were there any other durations on the lease that were available, or is the 72 the only option that they provided?
No, I went with 72 just because it gave us that lower payment, which is the only reason why I went with the 72. But we can go pretty much any lease term you want, really. You can do 3-year, 4-year, 5-year. I just went with the 72 for payment purposes.
Because it allowed you to stay within the budget.
Yes, sir.
Like if you were to drop it to a 3-year lease term, obviously we're paying more per month, and that may not have fit into the budget. Is that?
That is
assuming. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, sir.
Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mayor. Chris, if the equipment was to be just purchased outright, what would that cost be?
It would be 65,000 and change. Or hold on.
65,005.
Yeah, I believe that's the purchase number. I believe the 65 is the purchase number.
Yeah.
Is the outright purchase figure.
So there's no real savings in doing an outright purchase.
Other than the interest.
Yeah, you're going to be paying the interest on that 65.
Anyone else? Council? Yes, Councilor Sullivan.
I just did the quick math, and those quarterly payments add up to 73,000. So that's the 8,000 difference is the interest you're paying. So that's the difference between buying it outright versus paying the interest.
Councilor Prince.
Thank you. My main question, which has already been answered, is this a request to increase the budget? Which it's not. It's within the budget, and so, I guess I would be inclined to say let's let our golf course manager manage his equipment within the budget that has been approved. I do think it's a good observation that within the approved budget, he's having to do a purchase program that adds some interest and some cost to it. But I still think we just need to stick to our approved budget every year and go forward with that. The one question I would have, though, based on the discussion we've had, there are, if I understand right, Mr. Godwin, there's 2 zero-turn mowers in the quote here. And do we actually have to have both of them this year, or could you maybe do one and get it on a shorter term and save more money and then buy the second one in a subsequent year further out? Or we don't have any mowers and you got to get 2?
Well, the reason we decided to go with 2 of those is because so on the golf course specific rough unit, it's approximately a 12-foot deck, 12 to 14. The two mowers that we're purchasing are about 6 foot each. So that way we can have roughly the same mowing capacity at a cheaper cost.
Councilor Williams.
I think it's, I understand lease versus purchase, but I think to keep Chris within the budget that he has, I think we just need to approve him allowing him to lease this equipment within his budget.
Councilor Marion.
Just echoing that, I absolutely agree. If it keeps him within the budget that's already been approved, even better than having to, do a budget amendment and take that money from somewhere else. So I absolutely agree and appreciate the fact that Mr. Godwin came forward with an option that stayed within budget.
Right. Anybody else from council? Very well. Citizen comments. Yes, Mr. Durbin.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys are talking about the leasing versus the purchasing like it's really a different thing. But if anybody's bought or leased a car lately, you'll know that a lease is really nothing more than a mechanism to finance the deal. A lease is basically just like a finance deal, except with the down payment on the back end. However, there are a lot of times when it's not a lease purchase, and if it's not a lease purchase where everything's paid off at the end, then you can always buy whatever it is you leased at the end of the deal by paying the residual value. And I think Chris is doing a really good job with the golf course and everything. And this is a great proposal, and it's within his budget. My only question is if he got the sort of help he needs to do the analysis between a lease purchase agreement, buying it with some other sort of financing, or just an outright lease where you got the option to buy it at the end. Because those sort of leases have a lot of flexibility when you don't really know what your golf course is going to do in terms of saying, okay, we're done with this piece, you can come and get it, or bringing one in a little bit later and kind of spreading your costs around. I don't mean to begrudge him for his analysis or anything like that. I just that in his job. I was just wondering if somebody was able to, if he was able to get the sort of help he needed in terms of the lease versus purchase versus the lease purchase analysis went, because it's financial stuff that's the sort of stuff wizards like Mr. Roberts do. But that I just want to make sure he's got the support that he needed.
All right, thank you. Chris, do you care to comment on that at all?
I guess the best way to answer that is, to be honest with you, I explore the lease option, but to me it just makes more sense to go with a lease purchase, just because, again, it's equipment that we know that we're going to need in the long term, and knowing that the equipment is still going to be viable at the end of the lease and still have it for 3 to 4, 5 years after the lease term is over, and saving that $12,000 a year for that 4 or 5 years, to me makes more sense than trying to save a little bit on the front end and just do an outright lease where you're not knowing, well, okay, are we going to need it or are we not? We know that we're going to need this equipment full time or longer than that lease term.
All right, thank you.
By the way, the interest rate on this lease is 3.63%, if anybody wants to know the cost of the money. Just added fact. There you go.
All right, thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Comments? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
Just a quick question, Mr. Mayor. Do we still have that the John Deere mower over there at the shed?
No.
I saw Chris. I saw you nod your head. The one that's got the two.
Yes, sir.
Comes down.
It's still there. It's still there, but it's not in use at the moment.
The bat wing.
Has it finally died? I know it was partially inoperable.
It hasn't gotten any worse because we haven't driven it.
Got it. So we need this equipment, right? Pretty bad.
It's either yes or I'm going to get yelled at for not having roughs mowed.
Thank you for answering. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Right. Anyone else? All right, I'll bring it back to council and it's open for action. Yes, Councilor Sullivan.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we authorize the golf course manager to negotiate and execute this contract.
Second.
Second.
All right, got the motion by Councilor Sullivan and the second by Councilor Marion. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. And we go to number 6. Discussion and possible action regarding the engagement letter for auditing services provided by Singleton, Clark and Company PC. So as y'all know, last year we had gone out for bids for a new auditor. We brought in Singleton, Clark and Company PC, awarded them the new contract. They were given I believe it's a 3-year contract, but it needs to be authorized on an annual basis as far as whether we're going to continue to engage them in our services. That letter is up for signature. It requires the mayor's signature to whether we're going to engage them or disengage them. But I need direction from council to sign it. So that is why that is on the agenda. They will begin their work at the end of this fiscal year. But we need to sign the letter for them if we plan to continue engaging them. Any comment, questions? Yes, Councilor Prince.
When they turned in the audit material recently, I commented at the time that I thought it was a well put together document and quite readable, and I appreciate that. So I certainly would be in favor of that. I would be interested, Mayor, maybe you have gotten feedback from staff, or perhaps Ms. Barton can comment. Did we have staff feedback that they were reasonable to work with? And, were there any issues, any things that we should be aware of, for example?
So the feedback that I was given was that the people for the company were fantastic to work with. Very nice, very easy to work with, very accommodating. They said the same thing about staff. The only thing was it's new. It's a new company. And so you were kind of used to the way one company did things, and now you're getting used to a new company. So it was just different. It wasn't good or bad. It was just different. And again, that's why, I personally think contracts like that should be changed every so many years, so you just don't get complacent. And there's always different ways of doing things out there, and you should keep up with those ways. And so I did not hear anything negative whatsoever. So it was just different.
Got it.
Yes, Councilor Marion.
I thought the report was actually easy to read, and I liked the way that they set it up. In my opinion, easier to read than some of the prior audits. So I personally am in favor of retaining them for another year.
Anyone else comments? Anybody from the audience comments? All right, it's open for action. Yes, Councilor Sullivan.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we authorize you to sign the engagement letter with them.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second by Councilor Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. Now we'll sign the contract. The engagement letter. We're getting married. Number 7, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding resolution number 21-1884, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, appointing an individual to fill an unexpired vacant term as a member serving on the Building and Standards Commission and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. And this is, the lead is Councilor Davila. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Kent Leopold resigned his Building and Standards Commission position effective 6 April 2021. Chairman Scott Cameron and I, acting as the liaison to the Building and Standards Commission, would like to nominate Mr. Paul Roberts to fill the vacant commission position for a term expiring in 2022.
All right. Any questions, comments from council? All right. I do have a comment. I see, you put on here medical reasons. My only comment is I hope Mr. Leopold is doing well. We wish him all the best. Yes, Councilor Marion.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, Mayor, that I remember from prior comments that Mr. Roberts has made at council, he had some questions about and suggestions for dealing with contractors who may have been or may have created some problems for citizens. So probably a good idea to put him on the committee.
All right. Anybody from the audience, any comments? All right. Yes, Mr. Durbin.
Great choice. Fully support it. Thank you.
And I see Mr. Roberts in the audience. I assume he's accepting this nomination.
I'd be delighted. Thank you.
All right. If that is it, Arch, you can please make your official motion.
All right, I move to adopt resolution number 21-184. 1884, sorry.
Second.
All right, I have the motion and a second. Arch, if you would you please state the name along with the resolution for the motion?
For the motion, yeah.
You want me to make the motion all over again?
Yeah, if
Yes.
you don't mind, just state the name in your motion.
Sure. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 21-1884, naming Mr. Roberts as the person to fill the vacant position on the Building and Standards Commission.
Thank you.
And I'll second.
Right. I have the motion and the second by Councilor Williams. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Here, here.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, appointment is carried unanimous. Welcome, Mr. Roberts. All right. We go to number 8, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding engaging in a contract with Melissa Hedden to help analyze current and proposed utility rates and different approaches to rates and fees surrounding our utilities. Utility Rate Subcommittee made up of Councilors Prince, Davila, and Sullivan recently met with Melissa to discuss her previous efforts to analyze and report on Lago Vista's utility rates. It became apparent as the discussion progressed that re-engaging Ms. Hedden to help update numbers, modify assumptions, and strategize about alternative approaches would be extremely beneficial to the subcommittee's efforts and the eventual outputs from the subcommittee. The assistance this Ms. Hedden could provide has the potential to impact the pocketbook of every citizen positively, and as a result is quite possibly worth the expense to engage your services. This item is on the agenda to discuss that point in the attempt to come to a conclusion if that need is indeed true. On the back, it says funding is required. It is not budgeted. In the notes here, it says discussion, should we deem this a necessary activity, budget will be required. Depending on the level of engagement, the cost could be from $2,000 to $20,000. And who was the lead on this, Mr. Sullivan? Was that you?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir. All right, so Councilor Sullivan, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I would. I just want to reemphasize that in our discussion with Ms. Hedden, it was obvious that she brought a lot of knowledge and expertise to the situation. I think she understood what we were trying to accomplish and gave us several options for things that we could do moving forward. She also talked about completely updating the work that she did in 2019 and taking into account some of the things that we talked to her about. For example, growth rates. She had a growth rate of, I think it was like 100 or 150 houses a year, and this year we're on rate to do 500. Assumptions about debt and how much of it we might use versus out-of-pocket funding. She also had some knowledge about what we can do with tap fees and so forth. So bottom line is, I think she brings a huge amount of experience and expertise to this and can help the subcommittee come to some conclusions about how we can best yield some relief to the citizens in a relatively short term. I would emphasize that the whole idea would be that the dollars to fund this would come out of the utility department. Last year, it had a surplus that surpassed $3 million. So I anticipate that we would see that much again this year, given the fact that we've got only added households to the accounts on record for the city. So I do believe that we'll be able to handle that without a problem. And it could end up resulting in relief to the citizens that they've been asking for some time. And I would yield to Mr. Prince and Mr. Davila to throw in any comments that they have to add to what I just said.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I would agree that in our conversation with Ms. Hedden, I was impressed with her expertise, and there were areas of knowledge that she had that I think are essential to the city to keep us out of trouble in terms of what we legally can or cannot do. And she also had some creative suggestions that we otherwise would not have thought about. So I think to me, it's well worth paying her for some of her time on this. I have gotten comments from several citizens suggesting our water rates are too high, and didn't she do the study last time? So why would we want her again, right? But in fact, I think that the water rates are where they are because of the assumptions that she was given to work with. And as Mr. Sullivan pointed out, the situation is very different than what she was given as input data 2 or 3 years ago when she last started her previous study. So, I think this is something that as a subcommittee, we need it, and it's appropriate to do minimal spending around her time to get the well thought out correct answers so that we can come back with a recommendation. And I would second Mr. Sullivan's suggestion that this should be funded out of the utility department, because that's the whole point of the exercise.
All right. Mr. Davila, did you have anything to add?
Yes, sir. As we continue to grow and add more accounts on an annual basis, I think that the money spent on having her go back and look over our situation is well worth the money. So I am very much in favor of using her services once again. Thank you, Mayor.
So hang on, Mr. Councilor Williams. Before I get to you, I want to bring in Star. Star, we're looking at using the utility fund for this. Could you tell us And under the utility department, what would this fall under? I mean, would this come out of the fund reserves, or would this come out of their professional services, or what would this actually be attributed to as far as the utility fund? And do we currently have that money in our budget, or is this something that would take a budget amendment?
The study itself would be funded through my utility admin budget. That's where we've kept it before. I have budgeted $5,000 there just as a carry number every year, just because we usually do have her take a peek at the rates and see if where we are at the end of each year. If she went all the way up to the 20,000 end, obviously I'm going to need a budget amendment to cover that, but she'll give us a scope of services and a price tag once she has determined how much it's going to cost to run whichever analysis y'all are asking her to do. It would just be plain utility revenue. It would not be coming out of any reserve accounts. It'd just be in my budget.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, Councilor Williams, now I will recognize you.
Well, that was very similar to the question I was going to ask. You know, on the from 2 to 20,000 seems like a wide span. So I was trying to figure out, are we talking more towards the 20,000, or are we talking more towards the 5 to 6,000? So as long as she gives us an idea of the scope of work, and I think it's a good thing to do, I'm fine with it.
I believe the highest year that we paid her $14,000 for the whole scope of services. So once she knows what she's looking at, what direction y'all give her, she will give us a price tag, and then we'll know.
Got it.
Thank you. Councilor Sullivan.
Thanks, Mayor. And I meant to comment on that range earlier, and I apologize for not doing that. So I can give you some background on how those numbers came about. We originally asked her, you know, what would it be cost us if we just needed, you know, 10 hours to have you come and like update your spreadsheets and things like that. And that was the $2,000 figure. And then if we wanted her to kind of completely redo the study that she had done, that's when she quoted us the $20,000 figure. And I think the reason why we started moving towards that larger number is she began to, it became apparent as part of the conversation, all the knowledge that she had in the different areas that she could look at where she could yield positive results. And that's when we thought, well, gosh, you know, it probably makes sense for us to really engage her fully so that we can encompass the entire conversation. And again, I'll yield to Mr. Prince and Mr. Davila to see if they had the same reaction to it as I did.
Yeah, I think that's right, Mr. Sullivan, that it's more likely to be towards the high end. And as Ms. Lockwood has said, if her max in past years has been 14, you know, maybe it'll look more like that rather than the 20. I think the 20 was sort of an off the top of her head. But I do believe as the conversation went along, I would agree with you that we as the subcommittee were thinking more towards a more robust engagement that would be more towards the high end than the low end.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I think that's, Mr. Mayor, I think that's imperative because, I mean, circumstances have changed. When the last study was done, we had fewer homeowners to take care of the cost of the utility work that we had to do. Now that we have this rapid growth and we have more homeowners and more people buying homes, I think we need to look into another study and see where we are. So I'm all in favor of doing this. So.
Okay. So thinking possible direction coming out of here, we direct the subcommittee to possibly bring something back the next council meeting with a scope of work and an estimate.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear on the procedures for this, because this is a request for services or a contract for services. Is this something that would have to be put out for a bid? Aaron, can you tell me that? I know there's differences. I just can't always keep them straight.
I don't think her professional services would qualify for one of the exemptions. For example, it's not legal services, it's not architectural services. It would be normally something that you would go out for bid for. Proposal, request for proposals. You want to have, sorry, RFQ, request for qualifications, because it's a professional services. Get my terminology correct here. But
Okay.
it's not exempt from one of the ones that you could avoid it.
All right.
When we've engaged her in the past, is that the process that we've walked through?
That's a good question. I've never been involved for Lago Vista. With other cities that I've worked with, they have done requests for qualifications and they've chosen the vendor. They're not it's a unique kind of a niche market. So, you know, there are probably half a dozen people in our area or that do work in our area that do that kind of work. But it, you know, you can't claim the exemption that there's only one vendor to get it from. So
I'm trying to recollect, but I'm pretty sure that we did go through the process, and both times she was the only reply that we got. But I'm not 100% sure on that. I'd have to research it. But
Mayor, actually, we have not gone out for bid on this particular thing.
oh, okay.
So, Mayor, if I might, the only comment that I would make is obviously the whole intent is for us to come to some kind of conclusion that would give us feedback or input, I'm sorry, into the budget process. And so my only fear is if we go out for a bid, is that going to be a 45, 60 day cycle or longer? And does that impact our ability to provide the input into the budget cycle?
Yeah, it could. Yeah.
it's really not that long.
Okay, so Ms. Silvera, what would be your recommendation? Do we need to make a motion to approve staff putting this out for bid? Or do we just provide direction and that's enough?
So it's less than $50,000, so you don't have that threshold to deal with. It is, so you would not have to go out, use the public bidding process. I would want to look at, if you're interested, it sounds like you're interested in using her services. If there's an option to do it without having to go to bid and to use her in particular, I want to help maximize that option. There's one area of the law I need to double check before I can give you a final answer. So if you'll, I need a moment to do that because I don't want to give you the wrong information.
Sure.
But for now, we could probably just give a direction because we got to bring it back with the scope and everything.
Right.
Right.
Next
week. Instead of trying to get an answer right now, you know, she can research it. The staff knows that this is a direction we want to go, and they can go figure out the exact process we got to walk through and let us know.
I don't think you want to lose the history of that she has on the fact that she's familiar with Lago Vista and has done it in the past. I think you want to try to keep her as much as possible. If it does go out to bid, do you have to accept the lowest bidder?
Nope.
No, it's a request for qualifications. You choose someone based on their qualifications, what they bring, and so the fact that she has those skills, it's a different analysis. It's not based surely on numbers. You're looking at, you don't pick her based on the amount of money you're going to pay her. You pick the person, the company or entity or person based on their qualifications.
Gotcha.
Because it's professional services for that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Mayor, if I might, one more comment, please. I think it was Mr. Counsel Prince that talked about, you know, we've used her before and the rates never went down. Why do we want to use her again? I think what I would emphasize is that you have three members on the subcommittee who are all very committed to trying to get rate relief to the citizens. And the whole idea for engaging her is the three of us work very closely with her to figure out how do we make that happen. And she was very amenable to that. And I think the three of us working with her, we can make that happen.
Got it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely true. As Ms. Silvera is searching for this, I think the direction that you're hearing from the subcommittee here is we want to move as quickly as possible to really understand the updated situation and come up with a solution that's good for our citizens and meets our financial needs of our infrastructure. And so, we have a 3-week break until our next council meeting. The thing that I mostly want to avoid is not making any progress on this until we get back together in 3 weeks. So, to the extent that we can come up with something where we meet the law, but we move forward as quickly as possible to do our analysis. That's what we're looking for.
Right.
Got it.
So, Aaron, can we table this for a few minutes and then go on to another agenda item and come back to this?
Yes, that would be perfect because I've almost found what I needed.
Okay. Well, we will come back to number 8. We'll go into our consent agenda while she's doing her research. Consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are to be considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. We have number 9, approval of the March 4th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Number 10, approval of an ordinance amending 7.4 of ordinance number 18-09-20-04, correcting the name of the Library Advisory Board and Youth Advisory Committee. 11, approval of an ordinance amendment reflecting the temporary change to the winter averaging. Approval of resolution 21-1885, adopting a policy regarding background checks for adult members serving on the Youth Advisory Committee. Any questions, comments? Any? Yes, Council Weatherly.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have the motion and a second by Councilor Prince. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, consent agenda is approved unanimous. Discussion items. Discussion regarding, I'm going to go to 14. We're going to skip 13. We're going to go to 14. Discussion regarding the National Museum of the United States Air Force 2021 loan renewal package for the historical property on loan to the city of Lago Vista. So I think everybody's aware this is our F4 Phantom that sits at the entrance to the airport. We get annually a loan agreement that was previously done that was signed by Josh Ray, but he's not here. So it has kind of fallen to me to sign the loan agreement. And I just had some questions and thoughts, and I wanted, in addition to asking for, direction, I called or I emailed the National Museum of the United States Air Force and asked them about the upkeep on that, if there was any grant programs or anything out there, because I haven't really done a close-up inspection of it yet. I was kind of waiting for, to discuss this with y'all, but I'm thinking that this plane is probably due for some maintenance and upkeep, maybe some painting done on it. I'm not really sure. But but I was looking for some funding sources. So I called the museum just to see if there was any grants or if they helped with anything. The answer is no. There is no. This is pretty much our plane. I find it kind of funny. They call it the property on loan program, but man, once you get this plane, it's your plane. So all the upkeep, all the maintenance, everything falls on us. But they do require us to do it. We can't neglect it. I don't know what would happen if we did neglect it, but I don't know why we'd want to. But anyway, so all the maintenance is up to us. So moving forward, we need to do some research on, we need to come up with a funding mechanism because we don't have this budgeted. There's nothing accounted, there's nothing set aside for maintenance of this airplane. So I don't know if this is something that the city is responsible for, or if this falls on the property owners of Rusty Island Airport. I don't even know really who got this plane originally. I think it was the property owners. If I understand correctly, and I could be wrong, but if I understand correctly, this plane is the actual plane that one of our residents flew while he was in Vietnam. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I think that's the story I've been told. So it's a very unique plane, but I don't know who got it, how they got it, but we do have it. Something else I ask is the museum is, well, what if my citizens and property owners and airport people decided they didn't want this anymore? And how do we give it back? We are fully responsible for the money to disassemble the display and ship it back to the museum. Now, they did say if we didn't want it, they would put out a feeler to see if anybody else wanted it, and perhaps they would bear the cost of having it moved to their location. But otherwise, it's pretty much on us. So hearing that, I figure it's probably cheaper to maintain and beautify the plane and keep it as a piece of pride than to get rid of it. So, I'm looking for a direction to sign off on the contract, and then some ideas on what we can do going forward as far as getting it maintained. Yes, Council Williams.
I think we need to find out how much is it going to cost us to maintain it and see if it's feasible for us to do before we can sign the contract. If you have to paint a plane or you have to change out a bunch of the parts in the plane or stuff like that, it could be very expensive. So we just need to find out how much it's going to cost us to maintain the plane correctly and go from there.
I'm pretty sure the plane is just the shell. There's really no parts to it other than the body itself. So unless there's got some rust or something on it, there shouldn't really be any parts. But Councilor Prince.
So we brought this subject in front of the Airport Advisory Board in March in our last session, and the discussion went something like this. One of the guys said to the other one, "Didn't you and I paint that last time? Well, let's go take a look at it and see if we need to do it again." So I think that's really what we're looking at is the guys that are members of the POA that are the responsible types that care. I think probably they will just take care of it. We have not, the Airport Advisory Board hasn't met again since that. So I don't know if we've, but we'll get that on the agenda. But I think signing the contract is kind of a no-brainer because not signing the contract, then we're going to have to figure out how to ship it off or get rid of it. Or that becomes definitely more expensive than, two guys with their can of high quality spray paint taking care of it for us, which is the sense that I got. So I don't think, Councilor Williams, I don't think there's any expectation that this would be expensive maintenance. It's probably a do-it-yourself project with the guys that have some good DIY painting skills to take care of it.
Yeah, and the contract itself, we don't have to have anything done other than we just got to submit our plan. So if we just tell them, hey, we're going to paint it over the next year. That's really all I have to submit to them. But yes, Councilor Marion.
Thank you, Mayor. I saw in the packet that the plane is valued at $22,000, but just making sure we're not paying the museum to keep it, right? It's purely a zero cost to us loaner. Okay, other than maintenance, whatever it might cost to maintain.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and I was about to point out that same thing, Miss Marion. If we really went down a rat hole, 22 grand would be all we would be out, because that's what the shell's valued at. I would be curious, number one, do we have insurance on the plane? Do you know, Mayor? And while you're thinking about that, what I'd suggest is that the folks, the POA members, they're the most knowledgeable. We absolutely want to lean on them for any help we can get from them. But I think, we're ultimately the ones that are signing that contract, not them. So we're responsible. So, maybe, and maybe Mr. Prince can bring this up with them, we pay for the supplies necessary for them to do the work. And if they, in their, knowledgeable capacity, can do the work, maybe we can work as a team to make this happen.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, and the borrower, 11.2, the borrower shall arrange insurance coverage for the property on an all-risk, wall-to-wall basis at a minimum for an amount that equals the total agreed upon FRV. So I will have to research that, but we should, according to the contract, have insurance on this.
Right. You'd just be curious to know if we do have insurance.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I have to look through here to see if they require proof of that. You would think they would ask for proof of that. So I don't know. I can get all that together, but anybody
Okay.
else? All right. I will go to the audience. Ms. DeVoe.
Hi, council members and mayor. I had a question. So I know a lot of times when you do a military installation, you have to keep certain colors that actually go onto the plane, but I was wondering if this had that type of thing, like unless we return it to them, it needs to be in the same manner as the colors that could this be an art piece installation where you could almost like make money? I'm not make money, but I have all these ideas because now I'm on the Parks and Rec and we're trying to find things like this that we could almost like not raffle off, but do a thing where people would get to come put their art on that plane. You can't do that. It has to stay like military colors. Okay, that's what I wanted to know, because if we could get a plane like that, that would be great. But if we got to keep it the same, I love that plane. It was one of the first things I saw when I came to this town. When I heard there was an airport, I drove up there and I passed the airport, but then I noticed the plane and thought, oh, the airport. So I actually like the plane. So thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. If I could see exactly where it says. It does say that it has to be maintained according to historical presentation. So yeah, I think the numbers on it and everything have to stay intact.
Probably the colors too.
Yeah, there's directions on how it all has to be maintained.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Being a military, you usually always have to leave their stuff the way it is, the army green, the blah, 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 as it goes down. They don't want you defacing the property.
Okay. 12.2, borrower agrees to furnish lender proof of insurance. as required. So I'm assuming we have this insurance because I have not seen anything saying that we have not provided proof. So the answer to your question, no aircraft will be renovated, reconfigured, painted, have markings changed or tail number altered or any parts added, removed or replaced as part of a planned restoration effort without prior written approval from the National Museum of the United States Air Force. 13.01, 13.1. All right. Yes, Mr. Roberts.
Just wanted to confirm that rumor you heard. I met the gentleman who piloted that plane. That's true.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. To be able to get the actual plane that you flew in Vietnam, that's pretty cool. All right, Aaron, are we ready to go back to, that was a discussion item only, so no action. Are we ready to go back to number 8?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
So I was able to look up the and verify that this type of service would qualify as an exemption under Local Government Code Chapter 252 because it is a service that's being provided by the actual person who we'd be procuring it from. And it doesn't fall within the list of services that are otherwise exempt as professional services. This would be considered a quote unquote personal service. And so we do not have to go through the bidding and proposal process for these for this type of service. So the competitive bidding requirements do not apply. So if you want to engage Ms. Hedden, then you are free to do so.
Awesome. That makes it much easier and faster.
Yep.
Looks like one of the me.
All right.
Come
Do you have
on.
any more questions, or can we give some direction?
Give some direction.
All right. It's
I'll
open.
make a motion that we engage in a contract with Melissa Hedden to help analyze current and proposed utility rates and different approaches to rates and fees surrounding our utilities.
I'll second.
And for the mayor to execute whatever contract she brings back.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding this right, because when it comes back, so does that include, you know, the scope of work, and are we going to go just straight to her and negotiate something, or are we wanting, you know, the subcommittee to come back with something? Yes, Councilor Sullivan.
Mr. Williams, would you take back your motion and allow me to make one?
Sure.
Okay.
You got it.
Mayor, I would make a motion that the council approve the subcommittee to work with Ms. Lockwood and Ms. Hedden to define a scope of work for the work that she will do with the city to analyze rate structures and so forth, and that we bring that scope of work and estimate and contract back to the council for final approval.
Second.
All right. Yeah, that sounds more to my liking. Thank you.
Okay.
Gotcha.
You got it.
Did I get a second? I'm sorry.
Mr.
Yes.
Williams?
Okay,
Yes.
so I have the motion and I have the second by Councilor Williams. Any further discussion? And
That's
all
good.
those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. And we go back to our discussion items. Number 13, discussion regarding available space in City Hall Annex building. Says the city is in critical need to staff up in every department in order for us to keep up with our rapidly expanding needs for services However, we cannot even consider adding any staff until the city has secured appropriate physical space to staff our employees. We need to immediately be looking at obtaining space in non-retail sales tax generating commercial space, non-commercial space, current surplus office space buildings, and possibly temporary buildings. So this, Mr. Chan was listed as the lead on this, but he is not with us. So I'll kind of touch on this, along with the city's growth, and the burden that it's put on, city staff. We're looking to have to, add people to our staff, and we're already tight. We've got people working basically in closets. As you can see, I'll give you an example. You can look at Miss Silvetta's screen right there, and she can't open her door without hitting her chair. I mean, she's literally in a coat closet. Same with Chris Mobley. And so, yes, we do have the expansion of the municipal complex with the library and city hall in works that will take the old council chambers and make that available for some space. But just looking at the square footage of that, that would basically alleviate the problem we currently have, but would not really do anything for future additions of personnel. So the purpose of tonight is just it's just discussion. And so I want, council to, provide some thoughts and ideas that we can look at in the future. I'll open up the floor to anybody, council questions, comments. Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes, Mayor. I just wanted to make the rest of the council aware that you and I began this conversation a couple of weeks back. And I think one of the things that needs to be considered here is the fact that we are hoping to be able to get the addition or the having the two buildings, both City Hall and the library, to expand in the middle, but there's no way for us to know when we're going to get that done. The time frame is not known. We've had some issues with having the contractor withdraw because he didn't understand some of the legal ramifications that were involved. So I think that we can easily say that we're probably a couple of years out from having the expansion in place where we can house that properly. So the conversation that you and I had had to do with at least looking for property that we could lease to be able to move a large department like development services into, that would free up some of the space that they currently take up in City Hall, and allow for the ability to expand our staff and have a place to put them. So that's where it began, and I think this is the right time to be talking about how to solve that problem.
All right, thank you. Councilor Marion.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a couple of initial thoughts on this. I wonder if there could be some consideration perhaps to thinking about which perhaps, well, I don't want to use the word non-essential, but which staff it's not essential for them to be in the building every single day that could perhaps be on a telework type schedule where maybe they work out of their home. That could possibly free up some space. That's idea number one. And then number two, it may be worth looking into, so when schools outgrow their building in population, which happens pretty frequently, especially if they can't afford or can't get a bond passed to, expand the building itself, they buy those portables, which are like portable classrooms, maybe much less expensive than trying to buy a 10 or 12 acre piece of property and then trying to, construct some massive new building on it. So I wonder if it could possibly be investigated to look into some of those portable buildings. You actually could fit a couple between City Hall and the library. Maybe even 3 or 4 could fit in there, but that might be another possibility. So just a couple of initial thoughts to maybe get some conversation going that may not be as expensive as other options.
Yeah, that's true. I do want to throw out a little history on that, though. Obviously the state legislation has changed the regulations in 2019 as far as building materials. But years ago, when we had our standards in place, those portable buildings did not meet our standards. And there was a huge issue when it was brought in and put at the golf course. Now, that was just one part of a bigger issue, but that portable building was supposed to be temporary. It was only supposed to cost us so much money. I think we ended up paying about 3 times what it was really scheduled for, and we ended up owning it. Of course, now we have moved it to the airport and established it, as the airport lounge. So we have been able to use that portable building. But if we go with something like a portable building, man, we've got to figure out where that thing is strictly temporarily, and we're not going to get in a situation where it costs us more to end up buying it and then I don't know. I'm not against the portable building. I'm kind of hesitant about it just because of the way it would look here in the middle of Dawn Drive, and anyway. Yes, Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things to consider. Number one, we have a parcel under contract that has a structure on it. And the whole idea was that we were going to utilize that to potentially house some of our employees. And that's a solution that could be, 60 days out. So I think we do have a potential short-term solution, at least partial. And then my other suggestion is that, we've got a contracted real estate broker for a reason. And this is a very good one. And I would suggest that we get that person out beating the bushes to find some options that they could potentially bring back to council so that we could discuss viable options for space in the area.
Yeah, very good point on the structure. I just haven't really measured to see what kind of space that will offer us, but yes, that's very good point. Yes, Councilor Marion.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 things. One, following up on Councilor Sullivan's comment just a moment ago. Yes, we did talk about that perhaps being a location for the new public, or for the Public Works division or the Public Works folks. In fact, we had a conversation about that being ready to the point that we wouldn't have to sink money into it to revamp it to get it ready. That was one of the parts of our conversation. But as far as the portable buildings go, if we don't like the idea of putting it between the space, in the space between City Hall and the library, you could put it out on that same parcel of land near that other structure, and then not have to worry about the looks of it. I mean, if it's good enough for elementary school children, it's probably good enough for the employees of Lago Vista, is kind of how I see it.
Yes, Councilor Prince.
I want to follow up on the comment of using our real estate agents to go seek out some options for us. It also occurs to me that There are some on this council who may still feel the singe marks from the historical Lago Vista Village discussion and moving City Hall or not moving City Hall out there. I do think, though, that there may well be a viable option to move some of our employees up to Lago Vista Village in a leased space on a reasonable lease. And I will point out that we've been quite forgiving on the 380 agreement with the owner of the Lago Vista Village, and it seems appropriate to me that maybe a good time to go look for a little bit of space, office space in the quite large amount of open space that he has. And I think the history of the Lago Vista Village and as we were reminded in open citizen comments, the 50 people who showed up to argue against it was per those citizens, it was a bridge too far. It was a plan too big. But I think doing something that is reasonable and well contained to a department is, in my mind, a perfectly good option to look at.
All right. Yes, Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. The only comment I would make about Lago Vista Village is that the space isn't built out. There's no plumbing, there's no electrical. All that would have to be done in order for it to work. And my thought is that there are other options that are potentially available, and that's why I was recommending let's get our agent out there looking, our broker out there looking to find some options that might be less expensive and quicker to execute.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to Lago Vista Village, I don't mean that at all. I just mean I think there's some options, shorter term, less expensive options that we could choose.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but Fort Lago always seems like a building that could be put to use, but And does anybody know, just right off the top of that, the Copper Top building next to SLR or Hillside? I'm sorry, Hillside. Is it currently in use?
The building next to,
Mayor, I wondered about that. Wasn't sure if that was somebody's house or what that was.
No, it's a commercial building, but I don't know if it's.
Okay.
It's, Mayor, it's the one I think that had a fence constructed around it. It's got signs, no trespassing and so forth. I'm not sure what it's used for, but there has been some activity there, recently.
Okay. Yeah, I've gotten so used to just driving by it, I don't really look at it anymore, but yeah. So I saw a hand, David Williams. Yes.
and just to throw out an idea, the land that we purchased right next to the POA, is there anything that we could put a portable building on that lot?
I'm sure it's viable,
I mean, because that's big enough to put a good size building, portable building on that lot that wouldn't look like a portable building. I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean, you figure that location has got to have utilities readily available because you got one on either side. So,
right.
I would think if we were going to put it in this area, I would prefer it over there than between City Hall and the library.
Correct.
Because there's no trees and it's barren, and at least the little park is, shaded and halfway nice looking. So,
right.
Yes, Councilor Prince.
Thank you, Mayor. I take Councilor Sullivan's point well on the Lago Vista Village. I think that where he was going, and I wholly support, is let's get our realtor looking for solutions we can move on quickly that are reasonably priced. We definitely have a problem that we are growing like crazy, and in order to keep up with the citizens' growth and the development growth, we need more employees. And we need places for those employees to sit. So, what is the shortest path to a solution that does not have a huge capital outlay? That's what I think we need to pursue, and that probably means it's a lease option, not any kind of a build or build out option. But let's let our realtor come back with some options for us.
All right, Councilor Davila. Did I see your hand?
Yes, the only thing that I was going to add, Mayor, was the idea that leasing is probably the better way to go, because we're looking for something that's semi-temporary, because if we're going to go forward with the expansion between the library and city hall, then would do no good to put temporary buildings there because we would be then interrupting the expansion. But I think the idea of finding a place that's already got all the utilities in place, and also we have to consider, is there going to be parking available? That's why I was thinking about some of the vacant buildings that you and I discussed that actually have parking lots around them, where if we moved a big department like development services, they'd be able to have people go to that building, do their work, and do their permitting and things of that nature, and also have a place where they could park. That department probably gets as much, if not more, activity than anything else that we have that at least that we're around, because Public Works, I'm sure, has quite a bit of activity, but we're not around them to see what that activity is. So I think the idea that Councilor Sullivan is proposing is a good one. I think we need to be looking at the possibility of leasing someplace that fits our general scheme. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Council, anybody else? All right, Darcy, you have the floor.
Councilman and Mayor, I would just like to maybe suggest, the ESD is leaving their station because they're opening, or they're where they were in that building right on Bronco Lane, and so their space is going to be empty. I probably would say within the month or 2 months. So I would be looking at that building that's right on Bronco Lane, because it would be maybe something you can put the P&Z or something where the permit people have to come, where you get high traffic from contractors that don't want to come down Lazy Dawn Drive by the school. You could put those people in that type of building and then leave the people that are up and around here, that like coming to this building, like the mayor or the city council members or whatever, because it's close and midway, but use that building. And it's on Bronco. So, that's a pretty good spot. And I think it's probably within 2 months, they're going to be out of that lease or out of that building.
All right. Yeah, that's, what's the name of it? I can't think of the name of the building.
Are you talking about their space at the?
It's right by Sonic.
At the Casey building?
The Casey building.
Casey building.
Yeah.
Well, they're not leaving there,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are.
are they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They spend a lot of money fixing that up to leave it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's an idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Council Marion.
Mayor, what about the land next to the PD? Is there something currently planned there? Could something be put on that land of use? I'm just thinking we have now some decent property to think about, and it seems like if we either already own or will soon enough own property, we should make use of it rather than going out and leasing something somewhere else. I would really want to see the cost breakdown between a long-term lease, because the build out between the library and city hall isn't going to happen in the next 4 months. It's going to take a year and a half, perhaps. So it's not a short-term lease by what I'm thinking anyway. I would love to see a cost difference between that and using the land that we already own to do something with.
Right. Yeah, that's right now. We don't have any definitive plans for that piece of property. We do know the police department will be expanded at some point, and then we do want some other facilities on there. But yeah, looking at getting that, you'd have to compare the cost of site prep, water, sewer, electricity, to a piece of property like that, as opposed to the lease. But yeah, it's definitely, we do have pieces of property. We've got a piece of property that gosh, at the roundabout where water treatment plant 2 used to be. I mean, that's another good piece of property, and it's already got water and sewer. So, you know, that could be a site. Yeah. Right, anybody else? All right. Was there any more citizen comment on that one before we move on? All right, I think that is everything, is it not? We are going to future meetings. Consider our schedule and items for future council meetings. Let's see, here's what I have on my list. For May 6th, STAR has some budget amendments that she will be bringing forward due to our audit and their recommendations. After action report presentation, hopefully I will have that finished because I am still getting input. And that's, you know, it's not really going to be a presentation. I just hope to have the document completely finished and out there published. And then, you know, it'll be kind of a discussion presentation type thing. But I have that temporarily scheduled for May 6th. Our fire marshal contract, May 6th. I have.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we likely won't have the fire marshal contract ready just yet. We did
Okay.
have a really good discussion with Travis County Fire Marshal's office today, and as suspected, their process is a little longer than our process, but we're working on some other potential temporary things, but not yet.
Okay.
We're working on it.
All right. So tentative. These are all tentative for May 6th. Nothing's written in stone. I have golf course advisory committee with a question mark. I assume that was our update from them. Was that correct? Was that what that was about?
Mr. Mayor, the Golf Course Advisory Committee has put together a signed proposal for the golf course, and we'll be making that presentation at the next meeting.
Okay. You said sign?
Signed proposal,
All right.
signage.
Signage. All right. I believe we also have retail strategies going to provide an update on May 6th. I know we've got Counselor Sullivan working on the roles of liaisons. And I think we're also going to look at the committee members and liaisons, the roles.
Yeah.
Can't think of
the
it.
subcommittee with myself.
Yeah.
But myself, Mr. Williams, and Mr. Davila, we're working on the liaison and committee procedures and policies. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I have for the 6th. I have a update from Comprehensive Master Plan Committee for the 20th. Is that still correct?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
All right. And that's all I have. I have nothing. I've even got June 3rd down here, but I have nothing for June 3rd. So yes, Counselor Sullivan.
Yes, Mayor, Councilor Prince and Davila and myself with Ms. Lockwood will work hard with Ms. Hedden to see if we can't bring back that contract on for May 6th consideration.
Okay. Anybody else? Counselor Prince.
Mayor, I hope that by the May 6th session, we'll be prepared to have a discussion about the Rusty Island Airport POA and city contract status update or agreement status update. So we need to flesh that out some more, but at least put it down, please, as a tentative agenda item.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we'll likely have the, we've worked out all of the details on the Nature's Point 380 agreement, so we'll have that for you.
Oh, okay. So,
I think we're also going to have, Mr. Mayor, probably the contract, the bids for the Loman Ford repaving.
oh, yeah, okay. For the 6th
Yes, sir, I believe so.
or the 20th?
I'm being told the 6th.
Okay. All right, Loman Ford Road paving. Just a note, that June 3rd meeting, I mean, we haven't finalized the schedule yet, but council, be prepared that June 2nd, 3rd, 4th, we could be quite busy. Because if that's when we're doing our final interviews for our city manager. You know, that's going to be probably that June 3rd. You know, we may be doing some June 3rd before a council meeting, and then again on that Friday, June 4th. So just be prepared.
Got it.
Anybody else? Agenda items? Councilor Marion? Did you have, I know we've had some delay, the animal.
Yeah, Mayor, that one is still pending, but you just listed off a whole bunch of stuff for May 6th. But I didn't hear much for May 20th. I think I'll be ready then.
Okay.
Or I will be ready. I'll be ready then.
Anybody else? All right. Yes, Mr. Roberts, do you have something that you would like council to consider as a future agenda item?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps as soon as the next the next meeting, an executive session, if you guys could talk and maybe hammer out some type of protocols for communications between chairpersons like myself and others and city staff, I think that would be great, and it could help us set all of our expectations appropriately.
So the document that we discussed earlier with Councilor Sullivan, the roles of liaisons committee members, I believe is supposed to address exactly that.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
And Mr. Roberts, I would suggest if you have any suggestions or additions to that document, please do forward those to me, and I'll be happy to work that with our group.
Thanks, Kevin. I'll do that.
All right. Well, if that is everything that I have, I am going to call this meeting adjourned at 9:04 p.m.
Delane, you won.
Who called 9 o'clock?
I did.
Good night, everyone.
That was a good one. See you guys.
Bye.